He's a brand, a billionaire, and a president. But how on earth did a New York real estate mogul manage to completely rewrite the rules of American politics? Welcome to The Explainer, where today we're digging into the rise and impact of Donald J. Trump.
So here's the central question we're tackling. How did these three distinct identities, the businessman, the media star, and the politician, all merge into one? Because they didn't just exist side by side, they fused together to create a political force we'd never seen before. So let's follow that journey, from his early days in Queens all the way to the White House.
All right, here's our roadmap. We're going to start at the beginning in Queens real estate. Then we'll look at how he became a master of branding. From there, we'll dive into his America First presidency, his contested return to power, and finally, we'll unpack the huge legacy he's left on the political landscape.
Okay, first up, forging an identity. Because this story doesn't begin in Washington. It starts in the hyper-competitive, cutthroat world of New York City real estate. And this is where the foundation of the Trump persona was really built.
So he was born right into a real estate family in 1946. So his path was kind of set from the get-go. But think about this combination. You take his father's business smarts, add the discipline from a military academy, and then you top it all off with a prestigious Wharton degree. Well, that's the recipe for the ambitious figure who would go on to take Manhattan by storm.
In this, right here, this gets to the very heart of the Trump paradox. On one hand, you have this powerful story he built of being a self-made billionaire, the ultimate deal-maker. But on the other hand, the reality is, well, a lot more complicated. His father's wealth and connections gave him a massive head start. This tension, between the image and the reality, it's a theme that you're going to see pop up over and over again.
Which brings us to our next section, because building skyscrapers was only one part of the game. The real project was building the Trump brand, a brand that would eventually become way more valuable than any single building he ever put up.
And boy, did he brand the New York skyline. I mean, he didn't just construct buildings, he plastered his name all over them, from the shiny Grand Hyatt to the world-famous gold-laced Trump Tower, and even the legendary Plaza Hotel. In the 80s, his name basically meant opulence and success.
But look, building an empire is never a straight line up. And to really get how he survived the financial storms, you have to understand a key tool he used, Chapter 11. Now, for his companies, this wasn't about failure. It was a strategic business move. It let them reorganize and bounce back. It's a pattern of calculated risk that, you guessed it, would later show up in his political style.
And this is the pivot point. This is where the businessman becomes a household name. With the boardroom drama of The Apprentice and his blockbuster book, The Art of the Deal, he wasn't just selling condos anymore. He was selling a persona, the image of the ultimate winner. And that persona turned out to be his most powerful asset by far. So, what do you do when you have a world-famous brand and a direct line into millions of living rooms every week? Well, you make your most audacious move yet. You run for president. Let's look at how he translated that brand power into actual political power. Once he was in office, his administration hit the ground running with its America First agenda. At home, that meant huge tax cuts and rolling back regulations. On the world stage, it meant ripping up trade deals like NAFTA and taking a much more combative transactional approach. Throw in a heavy focus on border security and then the totally unprecedented challenge of the COVID-19 pandemic, and yeah, you've got a first term that was anything but business as usual.
But if you want to talk about one of the most lasting legacies from that first term, you have to look at the courts. Over 200. That's the number of conservative federal judges he appointed, and that includes 3 Supreme Court justices. This wasn't just filling jobs. It was a strategic reshaping of American law that will be felt for decades.
His first term ended in an absolute firestorm of controversy. After losing the 2020 election, he challenged the results, which deeply divided the country and led to the January 6th attack on the U.S. Capitol. It was a moment that really tested American democracy. For a lot of people, it seemed like the end of his political career, but as it turns out, it was just setting the stage for the next act.
And somehow, out of that chaotic exit, he managed one of the most incredible comebacks in modern politics, which led to a second, and arguably even more consequential, term in the White House. So, after winning again in 2024, his second term was all about doubling down on those America First ideas. The agenda became crystal clear: shrink the federal government, unleash domestic energy production, get even tougher on immigration, and pull out of major international climate deals. So after all of that,
2 terms in office and a total shakeup of the political system, what is the real, lasting legacy of the Trump brand on America and its institutions? Let's unpack it.
A lot of analysts argue his biggest impact was on the Republican Party itself, and this quote here really nails it. He turned it into a personalistic party. So what does that actually mean? It means that loyalty to the Trump brand, to him as a person, often became more important than sticking to traditional conservative ideology.
And what's so fascinating is when you look at it from both sides, his greatest strengths and his biggest weaknesses are often the exact same thing. His supporters see an amazing communicator who really connects with his base. His critics see a polarizing figure whose words create conflict. His base sees an anti-establishment hero fighting the system. His opponents see a threat to democratic norms. It's a political style where the feature is also the bug.
This chart does a great job of showing the ripple effect. The biggest impact, no surprise, is on the Republican Party. It's been completely remade. But those ripples spread out. They hit the judiciary, as we've talked about. And then there's this crucial piece, the impact on public trust in our core institutions, like the media and the election system itself.
And so in the end, his career leaves us with this huge fundamental question. Was Donald Trump a radical break from American political tradition, or was he the inevitable result of it? He has left a permanent mark on the presidency and the nation, and his legacy is one that we'll all be debating for generations to come.